I've just come back from a trip to Utah, and this last Sunday I had a guest speaker come and teach my kids. And his wife, after talking with my kids, made the comment that I was failing to teach my kids the Bible because of the level of ignorance of the Bible that she encountered amongst the kids in the youth group that I lead. I've been a youth pastor at Joy Church now for going on a year and a half, and she was of the opinion that the kids really weren't being adequately taught the Bible because they just couldn't answer the questions that she was given and gave mostly I don't knows. First of all, when you ask kids questions about the Bible, a lot of the times, even if you ask adults questions about the Bible, they'll answer I don't know because they don't want to be put on the spot and they don't want to be grilled and refined for how they answer a question in front of a group. But I'm not disputing the level of misunderstanding that's out there about the Bible and lack of proper knowledge that my kids have about the Bible. It was several months ago that I asked my kids about the prophet Jonah, and they said they didn't know. And so I decided, well, this is an emergency kind of thing, so I preached on Jonah. And then everybody knew who Jonah was, and everybody didn't understand why I was preaching about him again. So there is a tendency for kids especially to say, I don't know, when a teacher or preacher asks them questions, just so that they don't have to be put on the spot. But there is a great lack of understanding. There is a great lack of comprehension of the Bible. And there is a generally poor method of delivering the Bible to kids amongst Christians in America. And I say Christians in America because it's primarily the responsibility of parents to teach the Bible. Sunday morning Christianity is great for a pep rally. It's great to get excited about Jesus. It's great to be encouraged in our faith. But it's really not an adequate basis for teaching the whole counsel of God. Even for people who do manage to come every single Sunday. And I don't think any of the kids that attend my youth group attend every single Sunday. You know, of course we make it fun, of course we make it interesting, and we try and make it so that they want to come every single Sunday. But it's just not adequate for teaching the whole Bible to kids just on Sunday morning. When we do have comprehensive programs in Sunday morning services for teaching the basic Bible stories of the scriptures. It's a great method for dumping knowledge on kids, but it's not really my style to just go to a program. The critic who went to my ministry this last Sunday really wanted me to adopt a program. You know, these programs can be purchased from different organizations who would love to be able to sell preachers a Bible story outline to preach from. But that's really not my style. And even if these were really freely available, it still wouldn't be my style to teach the Bible to my kids. When she said that I was failing to teach the Bible to my kids, I would wholeheartedly agree with her, and I would wholeheartedly disagree with her at the same time. A year and a half ago, when I began my ministry, I began with the intention of teaching what is the gospel? What do we need to believe in order to be saved? Having done that, I then embarked on a rapid study through the book of Romans to do an outline of Christian theology, give a crash course in what it is Christians believe. Now, over the last year, I've been doing a really long, really focused look at the Gospel of John, look at the life of Jesus, look at the life of the most important man who ever lived. Jesus is the heart and soul of the gospel. Jesus is the door, according to John chapter 6, that we have to enter through in order to have eternal life. And so, for the last year, I've been studying with the kids the book of John. And we've gone from John 1:1 to John chapter 13, looking at each and every single verse in the gospel that we've looked at so far. After we're done with the book of John, it was my intention to do an overview study of the story of the Bible. It was my intention to take something like 100 weeks and just jump from one important biblical narrative to another. So, phase one of my ministry plan of teaching them the gospel has been done. Does it mean that they've mastered it? No. Probably not. Certainly not to my liking. Phase two was an overview of Christian theology. Did the kids master it to my liking? No. Absolutely not. You know, the level of theological understanding of the kids that the kids have is still very inadequate and very unsatisfactory according to my liking. Phase three, we're looking at the life of Jesus. Phase three is still something that we're going through. It's not something that we've yet finished. It's something that we're actively looking at. But do I adequately cover each and every single verse out of the Gospel of John, even though we've spent a year going through the book, averaging about one chapter a month. Have I been adequately doing a study, a thorough understanding of the Gospel of John to the kids? No, absolutely not. At every level, I've failed to adequately teach my kids the Bible, and I fully and heartily agree with the critic who made that allegation against my ministry. That being said, even though I've been teaching to my kids an average of a half hour to 45 minutes of solid biblical theology every single Sunday for the last year and a half, I honestly don't care if you give me another 10 years at the church. I don't believe I will be able to adequately, thoroughly teach the kids to a point where I'd be satisfied with their level of knowledge based on what I've given them. And I say that because knowledge of the Bible is something that must go far beyond just what we are taught on Sunday morning. Jesus said in the greatest command, a command that I taught my kids in great detail when I first began in the ministry about a year and a half ago. Jesus said the greatest command was that we love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength. And do I feel like I've adequately taught myself, my kids at the youth ministry, how to adequately and satisfactorily, to coin a new word, I think, live out this command? Absolutely not. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for refinement. There's always room for greater training. We need to learn as parents and as leaders in the church that Bible knowledge cannot be left alone to the church. We need to learn that while youth ministers such as myself can help to teach the Bible to the kids, it's really up to the parents. It's really up to the individual kids to make sure that they have an adequate and right relationship with God. And this is one of the things that I teach my kids, that I can teach them an overview of the Bible. I can teach them the generalities of the scriptures, but it's going to be their decision whether or not they follow after God. It's going to be their decision whether or not they follow after Christ. And to do that adequately, we really need to take personal responsibility for studying the Bible for ourselves. People cannot just pay me. People cannot just pay a pastor such as myself to study the Bible and to think that they'll get everything that they need to get if only they'll attend church Sunday morning, kind of half pay attention to me while I preach for a half hour, 45 minutes a day, and then that's it. When my parents were raising me, my mom would read the Bible to me and my sister Heather every night before we'd go to bed. every night we had this little beginner's Bible. It was storybook edition, great thing, great tool for kids. And every night my mom would read 3 or 4, maybe even 5 stories from the beginner's Bible. There were about 100 stories, 100 Bible stories that the beginner's Bible covered. And we'd read that thing through 5, maybe 6 times every year. And you multiply that over the first 10 or 11 years of my life, plus the time they spent taking me to Awana, a Wednesday night Bible verse memorization program. You put all of that together, and when I started reading the full Bible through myself, I felt like I was not adequately taught the Bible growing up. And keep in mind, my mom would read to me 10, 20 minutes of Bible stories, Bible outline stories, Bible overview stories of great biblical narratives every night. And we had Bible verse memorization programs every Wednesday night. When I started reading the Bible verse by verse, book by book, from one cover to the other, I was amazed, I was flabbergasted at how much I did not know, about how little I was taught. I don't care how many hundreds of hours you spend studying the Bible. I don't care how many hundreds of hours you spend teaching the Bible to your kids. I would challenge anybody who felt that they thought they were doing a thorough job, a complete job. Jesus said we're to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength. We're to talk about God while we drive. We're to talk about God while we walk, while we play games. God is supposed to be an all-consuming part of my life, of our life, of your life, of the lives of the kids in my ministry. I want to teach my kids how to read the Bible. I want to teach my kids how they can find God for themselves. The true God, based on the Bible. Goes back to that principle of if you give a kid a fish, you've given him a meal. If you teach a kid how to fish, you fed him for life. I'm not so interested in teaching my kids through an outline of the Bible that they're going to forget. That's not going to affect the way that they live their lives. It's my job as a youth pastor to prepare these kids for life. And it's my goal to teach them not some outline, not some program that I paid for because I was too lazy to do it myself. It's my job to prepare these kids to live a life of faith, to prepare these kids for eternity, to prepare these kids to make an informed decision for themselves about whether or not they're going to follow after Jesus in their life. And a big part of this is me teaching them how to count the cost of what it means to follow after Jesus, to count the cost about what it means to live a life of faith. Do I feel like I'm failing to teach my kids the Bible? Absolutely. But 30, 45-minute sermons, sometimes an hour-long sermon to kids every Sunday from the Bible. I challenge you to find a youth pastor that gives as much Bible to their kids as I do. I'm sure they're out there. I haven't met them. But I feel like I'm doing the absolute best that I can. And the rest is in God's hands. The rest is up to Jesus, whether or not they follow after Him.